Impact Evaluations, Lessons Learned of the Peace Programme and the Interreg 5A Northern Ireland-Scotland Programme. This video was shot during the Interact event, Evaluation, How Did It Go?, in Helsinki on the 30th and 31st of May 2017. The aim of the event was to discuss terms of reference and first findings of impact and operational evaluations. In this video, the Peace Programme and the Interreg 5A Northern Ireland-Scotland Programme share 6 main lessons learned from undertaking impact evaluations.
Talk about this morning was some of our experience from the previous programming period and then how that has had an influence in our evaluation plan for this programming period. First of all, just say a couple of words about the programs, because obviously your evaluation plan, I think, has to be aligned to the content of your particular programs. So what works for us may not necessarily work in your program environment. We're the managing authority for a cross-border program, Northern Ireland, Ireland, Scotland, ERDF value 240 million, and we have got 4 axes, priority axes around research and innovation, environment, sustainable transport, health and social care. And we'll come back to that because you see there are very different types of topic areas, and that has had an influence in the way we have structured our impact evaluations. And then we're also the managing authority for a special peace programme between Northern Ireland and Ireland, addressing particular issues around peace and reconciliation on the island of Ireland, around shared education, young people, shared spaces and building positive relations. So the lessons that we learnt from the previous programming period, I'm going to share some of our rather bad experiences, and hopefully going forward our experiences of evaluation will be more positive. Our very clear experience is that we need separate operational and impact evaluations. Last time round we had them within the one terms of reference with one evaluator, and it just did not work. And it did not work because the evaluators concentrated on doing the operational evaluation and not the impact. So we have decided this time to split the two completely. We need to have a very short number of very focused questions, and that's a very short number of objectives for your evaluation, but then the evaluation questions themselves should be very, very short in number. The reason for that is what we find is that evaluators will answer the easy questions and not answer the hard questions. And if you give them 10 evaluation questions, they will answer the easy ones. They'll answer 6 or 7 easy questions, and the 2 or 3 really questions that you want to find out about. Does your intervention actually work, and what is the actual impact of it? They won't answer. And I think it's particularly important. What we made the mistake of previously is asking evaluation questions of which we already knew the answer. Because if you have a good monitoring system, you will be collecting lots of monitoring information, and the managing authority should be able to answer a lot of questions themselves without any external expertise. So I think they really is focusing on those really difficult questions you cannot answer. One of the things that we struggled with, and we have decided to include it, and I'm not sure that we should have in our impact evaluations, is the contribution to Europe 2020 strategy and contribution to the horizontal principles of equality and sustainable development. We have included that within our terms of reference. I'm not convinced it was a good idea, but we have done it. And I'm not convinced because I don't think those questions are particularly focused, and it gives too much space for the evaluators to write pages of nothingness. And they're generally good at that. Evaluators, in our experience, always complain about the lack of data. They say and we had midterm evaluations in the last programme period, and they came back to us and says, well, we can't answer these evaluation questions because we don't have the data that we need. And that's they're always, if you give them a difficult question, their answer is, well, sorry, we don't have the data, we can't answer it. So what we're doing this time to correct that is we're trying to bring the impact evaluators on now, at the beginning of the programme period, and the first thing we're asking them to do is tell us what data do you need, so that we start collecting any additional data that they think that they will need, and we start that process now. So they cannot come back to us and say, we did not have the data. So need to get them on board early and to identify any additional data needs. And I think it was David or others said yesterday, the result indicators that we have in our programme, even though I would argue they're very good, others, they're not comprehensive. And we will need other sources of data to really paint a good picture of the impact the programme is having. The evaluation needs to report at the right time to influence both the current and the future programmes. It is pointless investing a lot of money in evaluation if it's going to go and sit on a shelf. So better to have an imperfect document on time than a perfect document too late. So what we're doing in terms of our operational evaluation, which we have nearly the first report finished, that's due to be finished at the end of June, is we have asked the operational evaluators to report in 2017, 18 and 19, and then that's it. So they're reporting at the beginning of the programme period, talking about how our application process, etc. is working. And then we're asking our impact evaluators to report on 2018, 2020 and 2022. So we're asking for 3 stages. The reason for that is we want our impact, we actually think the impact evaluation in 2018, which is the very first one, will probably be the one that will have greatest influence on the programme, because it will both influence the way we implement the rest of the programme, and it will feed into any policy discussions about post-2020, whilst the other evaluations will be too late to feed into any of those policy discussions. Lesson 5, need to contract subject matter specialists. And we feel very strongly that we need to get people with specialist expertise. And it goes back to my first slide about our cross-border Interreg programme. You know, we're dealing, let's say, in the area of health and social care, where our final beneficiaries are specialists in delivering health services. We have final beneficiaries who are specialists in doing sustainable transport. They need, for us to be able to engage with them and really understand the impact that they're having, they need to be engaging with evaluators with technical expertise within those sectors. And previously, we would generally have got generalists, general management consultant type people. And a good final beneficiary can run rings around them. And so I would say get really technical specialists on board. And evaluation costs money, and you get what you pay for, largely. And I'll say a little bit more about what we're paying for. But the last programme period, it was just after the financial crisis, public sector austerity, etc. We decided, for various political reasons, to really cut back on our evaluation budgets, and the output of that was evaluation reports that were of quite low quality. So the key features then going forward of our evaluation We have one shared implementation or operational evaluation. So we're doing one operational evaluation that crosses both programs. And we're doing 7 impact evaluations. And we're doing them all separately, separate procurement exercises for them all. We had our first preliminary findings of our operational evaluation was presented to our PMC last week. And the PMC loved it. They thought it was great because it was the first time that they got evaluation findings presented to them in real time. So there were people coming back saying how our systems were working, how our application processes were working, assessment processes, etc. And the PMC members were engaging, and the evaluators found it really useful because then they will also take some of the comments that was raised at the PMC and incorporate that into the evaluation report. So that's the way we're doing. Just one, we talked, I know previous speakers talked about doing surveys of applicants, etc. And then, well, we have surveyed both our successful applicants and our unsuccessful applicants, but we've also asked our operational evaluators to survey the people who did not apply, because we think that is also a very important constituent group. And they're having trouble doing it, but they're thinking about how they're going to do that. And it's people who we thought should have applied to the program and didn't, and we want to find out why. So our impact evaluations then are very focused. We've tried to reduce the number of evaluation questions. Not always easy because our committee, different interest groups wish to expand the questions all the time. Procuring the impact evaluations early in the program period. As I said, we're running our 7 procurement exercises at the moment. Well, we're running 6 at the moment, and we'll run a 7th in about 6 months' time. And that's to get the evaluators on board to agree what their methodology is going to be and what their data requirements are going to be. Attract subject matter specialists. The criteria is really important. You have to weight your criteria in favour of subject matter specialists and really be very clear the level of technical expertise that you expect them to have. We are currently in discussions with our procurement body to try to reduce the weighting given to cost to 30%. So we would have 70% on qualitative criteria and 30% on cost. And that is because in the last programming period, we got a very poor response rate from our procurement exercise, and we went back to various companies and asked them, why did you not bid? And they said, the reason why we did not bid because you were giving too much weight to cost. And we know that we cannot compete on cost because we're more interested in delivering a quality product, and we will not compete on cost. So that's why, so we've tried to really reduce the weighting that we're giving to cost this time. Ask evaluators to identify their needs. Okay, we've mentioned that. Budget. We have looked at our impact evaluations, and it comes out at about 0.25% of the value of the priority axis. Now there's a range there. We looked at from 0.1 up to about 0.5 because there's a particular impact evaluation that we think is going to be more complex to carry out, and we have allocated more money for it, and one is a little bit simpler and it's less money, but generally it's about 0.25%. And roughly that means for an impact evaluation for a priority axis is in and around, I think, €100,000 or something of that nature. So it's a lot of money, and it's a lot more money than we've ever spent previously. Hope it works. Last slide here, which I think is something that we're trying to do, is I think it's really, really important. We're trying to create a learning culture within the program. And what we're saying is evaluation is about learning lessons, is about learning what works and what doesn't work, and then influencing future policy. I think that's really important both with our PMC, but it's also very important with our joint secretariat. Sometimes I'm from the managing authority, sometimes the joint secretariat gets rather defensive about evaluations because they have been involved in the selection and assessment of the operations, and they think that somehow we're questioning what they're doing. We say, no, this is all about learning. But I think it's also getting the learning culture installed with the operations and the lead beneficiaries themselves. Lead beneficiaries often approach EU funding with a real fear of penalties, of there'll be a financial penalty if they do not do something correctly. And what we're trying to say to them is that evaluation has nothing to do with the financial side of your operation. We want to learn what works, but equally we want to learn what is not working the way that you thought it should. And we're trying to get that really quite an open culture going. Not sure that we will succeed, but that is what we're trying to do. One of the things that we're building into all our terms of reference for the impact evaluation is that the evaluators have to organise 2 conferences during the programme period where they would bring all the projects from that theme together with external experts and external policy makers and hopefully people from elsewhere within Europe, and we would have a policy learning environment where we would discuss the interim findings of the evaluation. So that's something, again, we would, as a managing authority, will look after the costs of the conference, but we would expect the evaluators to be developing the content of the conference. So that's, again, a way of trying to have a more learning environment built into the programs. Okay, and that's all I have to say to you this morning. Okay.
If you'd like to see more details about the evaluation of Interreg programs and projects, please check out the different models Interact produced. In each of the models, you will find various materials such as videos, guidance papers, Q&A documents, links, and other details.